Hello and welcome back to my first video where I show you guys how to make your first Terraria mod. So there are a couple of requirements. You do have to have Terraria on Steam, and it also can't be on phone or like an Android or an iPhone or an Xbox or PlayStation. It has to be specifically for PC. Alright, so now once you've gotten Terraria, you go to Steam, search up tModLoader. tModLoader is officially supported by Terraria, and it's really good. All right, and then once you search it up, click install now. And when you click install now, you go to the library and then open it. To get started with your mod, click on workshop, click on develop mods, and then click create mod. And then this part, this name is not really important, but what's it called? I'll name mine test mod sword. This part, this is what you want people to see your mod as, like the name of your sword or the name of your item or the name of your mod. I would like to test, or I would like to name my mod magic sword. So as you can see how in here it says no spaces, make sure there's no spaces here. On the second one, you can add spaces wherever you want, and this is what people will see. And then the mod name, or the mod author, I'll name it my name. You guys can add whatever you want, doesn't matter. And this part over here, basic sword, no spaces, I don't know why that's there, but it's not important. I think all you have to do is just ignore it and then click create. Once you do that, it should open up a folder. And also another thing is that you have to have Visual Studios installed, and I don't think it matters what version or what year it is, but just make sure you have it installed. And once you have it installed, double click on this one that says CS Proj. Once you open it up or double click on it, it should open up the Visual Studios. And then once you do that, you could just straight up make your item. But first, before we start anything, we want to be organized. So first, you want to add a folder. We'll name it item. Later on, you can make other folders called like resources or whatever you want. Items, throwables, projectiles. But right now, we're only going to work with one item, and that item is going to be a sword. So once you do that, right click on item, go on add, and then click on new item. So some of you guys might see a whole bunch of stuff like I do, but some of you guys might see like very little stuff like this. But there is one thing you have to click on, the thing called class. And it only has class, the word class. All you have to do is click on it and make sure it says class and class only. Make sure you click on it, highlight this part, delete it, and name it whatever you want. You can name it Dirt Sword. This is going to be the name that the game will give the item. You can change that later on, but I would recommend naming the item here. That way, the game doesn't get all confusing, or the code doesn't get confusing later on. So I'll name mine Dirt Sword. All you have to do is click add, and it should add the item to it, and then it should open it up. So now that you have it open, you have to add two important things to this. Click up here, click enter, and then type in using Terraria, and then semicolon. And then click enter again, and then type in using Terraria, the same thing, .id. Make sure it says ID this time, or .id, and then semicolon. Once you do that, we're accessing the Terraria library, so now we can use stuff that Terraria has inside of their, I guess, like item class. So now we have to add the actual thing that our item is. So to do that, what we have to do is click on this line, click space, add a colon, and then type in mod item. Mod item will just make whatever you add in here, like all the code you add here would just be considered part of the mod item. So this thing would now be considered mod item. So you have to do this. This part you kind of have to do research on. Like if you want to add a projectile, it's probably going to be mod projectile. But yeah, after that, we now have to add the the default stats, or the stats for our sword or for our item, whatever you're making. But to do that, you have to type in public override, and as you can see, it autofills. You have to do public override void set defaults parentheses and then a curly bracket. and make sure there's 2 curly brackets. Now we can set the defaults or default stats to the item. So now in order to do that, we have to type in item dot. Let's give the item damage of 15. All right. So now we have given our item a damage value of 15. There's another one called item dot damage type. Damage type just classifies the damage class the sword is in. So after you type in damage type, you have to do equals damage class dot and then the class you want your item to be in, which since we're doing sword, it's going to be melee, and then don't forget the semicolon. And now we're going to add the item width and height. This is important because this determines the size of an item. It also depends on the image you use for that item. But for right now, we're just going to make it a default item width of 10. And also item width or item height of 10. Now we're going to add the use time, or how fast the character uses the item. So then what we want to type in is item dot use time equals to, let's make it pretty quickly, or make it pretty quick, so let's add 15. And then we also have to add a thing called item use animation. Use time is how long it takes for an item to complete a single use, while a use animation determines the duration of the item's animation. So if you make item use time faster than the item use animation, the image will move slower than the actual hitbox, which will make the whole syncing part of your weapon kind of bad. So always try to make sure use time and use animation is the same. All right, now the next thing we're going to add is item dot use style. Oh, my bad. Use style. I can't type. Use style. Use style. Use style is really important depending on what item you want to make. So I'll show you guys right now. Like if I click, I'm using IntelliSense. It just shows me what part of the code I'm accessing. So if I click on item use style ID, it shows me all of this. So it shows you how if you make it equal to 1, if you make this equal to 0, or yeah, if you make this equal to 1, it'll make it a swing use style. If you make it a 0, it'll be none, drink old, 7, thrust 3, and so on and so forth. I'll show you guys that way. If you guys want to add it, you can do it. There's a rapier, raise lamp, golf play, eat food, all that stuff. It just depends on what item you're making. But yeah, I'm gonna make one a 1, which is a swing, item swing. So then once we have that, it's all good. Now we're gonna add item dot knockback. Knockback is really cool. You can add it. You can add like 10,000 knockback to it. But if you want to make an actual good mod, you might want to be careful on what you change it to. But yeah, I'm gonna make mine a 5, just to make it a little strong. And then item dot value. If you want to add value to your sword or your item, you can add item dot value. You can make it at 500. And then after that, we can add item dot rare. Item dot rare just gives the item, whenever you hover over an item, it shows you the name of the item. The item rare changes the color of the text. So if I hover over this, go to item rarity ID, it shows you all the values. So master is -13, pink is 5, lime is 7, red is 10. So this is all the text. This will only change the text of the item. You always want to try to have all of these numbers and colors like set up correctly and not use them too much, because if you make everything a master, then the master will then become the common, and common stuff, right? So let's just make our common. So let's make it a 1. I think. Let me just double check real quick. Oh, common is gray, right? So yeah, I'm gonna make it a gray. So -1. Now that it's -1, it'll be gray. And then we're gonna add another thing called item.consumable. This is not necessarily important, but if you're making an item that will be consumed within 1 use of that item, you can make this a true. But if you're making a sword like me, and you want to keep using it, make sure it's false. And now we're gonna add item.useSound. This part You might want to do research on, because there's a bunch of sign IDs and some of them are kind of named weird. Like Item 1, it's just the default noise of like a swing. So yeah, you might want to search that up. It's not that hard to, I guess, find the ID for it. All you have to do is replace this item ID or Item 1 with the name of the sound. Yeah, now uh we're done with the item sound. We have to also add item dot auto reuse and make it true. Auto reuse is just, it's not necessarily important, but it would be nice to have for all of your items, because auto swing is part, or like auto swing is sometimes not available for everything. So auto reuse is like a default auto swing for that item, and yeah, that's the defaults for that item. And now we're gonna be adding the recipes, because right now we all we have is just the item with all the default, the set values. Now we're going to be adding the recipes. So in order to make the recipes, you have to type in public override override void add recipes. Make sure that there's curly brackets and parentheses as well. And you might see this if you click tab on the auto recommendation. Just get rid of that, and then go back into the middle of that thing, and then type in recipe. And then, okay, so you got to be really specific. It's really case sensitive, so make sure if you make an item capitalized, make sure to keep using that item or that variable with the capitalization with it. So now, yeah, type in recipe and then the name of the recipe. I'm gonna name mine test recipe. Actually, let me lowercase it, test recipe. And then after that, click equal to create recipe, parentheses, and then the semicolon. Right under that, you type in test recipe, or the name, or on this line, type in a period, and then add ingredient. And once you do that, this is an important part, because most people get confused on this part. So what you have to do, or type in inside the parentheses is item ID dot and then the name of that item. So like we said, we want it to be made out of 2 dirt. So then we're gonna have to type in dirt block, and then comma, and the number you add in here is how much of that item we want it to be worth in the ingredients. So we said we want it to be worth 2 dirt, so now we have to add a 2. Close that parentheses, type in a semicolon, and then click enter again to go down to the next line. Then type in test recipe again dot add ingredient item ID dot wood. Wood is like a general thing, so like it can be like if we just type in wood, it'll be like every type of wood. It doesn't matter if it's like corrupted wood or corruption wood or crimson wood, it doesn't matter. So I'm just gonna type in wood, comma, and like we said, we only want 1 wood to be part of that ingredient, so we're just gonna type in 1. Close that parentheses, type in the semicolon. So now we're gonna have to make this item craftable inside of a workbench. So now, in order to do that, we have to type in test recipe dot add tile parentheses tile ID dot workbenches, and then semicolon. And in order to register the recipe, make it to where the game could, actually use this recipe, you have to type in test recipe dot register. What is it? Register. And then 2 parentheses, and then close that line by using the semicolon. That's it. That's all you have to do. So actually, if you don't want this item to be crafted in anything, if you want the item to be crafted anywhere, no matter what the player is around, you could get rid of this line, and the player will be able to craft it wherever and whenever they want. So if you want to get rid of this to, I guess, make it craftable everywhere, you can get rid of it. But if you don't, and you want to make it to where it's workbenches or anvils, you can also change it to anvils. Yeah, that's what you can do. All right, so now that you have all this, we have the base. This is basically the sword. And all we have to do is add an image. I have a website where you guys can go. It's not my website, but it's a website that I use where I make most of my pixel art, like for my games and stuff. I'll link it down in the description. It's called Pixel Art. I already drew up a little image of a sword. It's not the greatest, I was just trying to get a quick sword. You can draw anything here, and then once you have something drawn, you go to File, Export / Download, and then click Download PNG. And then once you come out, go back to the test or the mod you're working on. Open up your folder, go to Downloads, and then drag the image into the item folder. Once you've done that, what you want to do, and what you have, this is like really important, what you want to do is rename this to the actual name. So you see, to the actual name of the item. So you see how it says Dirt Sword? Make sure it's the exact same. Make sure it has the exact same wording. No lowercase, or like there's no, make sure it's identical. Make sure it says Dirt Sword, and make sure the D and the S is capitalized. Make sure you name it exactly the same. And once you do that, you can do Control S to save. And once you saved, you can get out of, well, don't close it, because well, I mean, you can't close it, but we'll do that later. You can close it, go back to Terraria, and then click Build + Reload on your mod. Alright, and once you do that, you go to Workshop, go to Manage Mods, and then click, make sure it says Enabled. If it doesn't say Enabled, then click it and make sure to enable it. And you see how it says Magic Sword and there's a space, and then it says Binary Bow. We did all that in the beginning, and then here I've enabled a mod called Recipe Browser. This mod I use mostly just for, I guess, checking if my mod is working correctly to see if my recipes are working. And also cheat sheet, just so I can cheat it in if I want to. Now that you have it all enabled, you just go back, go to single player, create a character, go into a new world. I already have it all set up, so you can go to a new world. Once you go in, like I said, the item requires 1 wood and 2 dirt. So now let's get 1 wood and 2 dirt. So let's chop some wood down, and then mine some dirt. Alright, now, well, I already had wood and dirt in here, but yeah. So you see how over here, we can't craft it, right? It's not there because, we need a crafting table to make it. So if you go near this workbench, you can see Dirt Sword. Craft it, and now you can use it, which is pretty cool. And then as you can see, I'm walking to the right, and then the item is not, or the swinging is not changing. It's always staying in one direction. In order to fix that, what you have to do is go back. My bad, I forgot about this part, but yeah, you have to go back and go here. You have to type in item.useTurn is equal to true. Save it. And also, this is how you, I guess, tweak certain aspects of your game. So you see how, our sword does 15 damage, right? I don't want it to do 15 damage. I want it to do, 20 damage. So we can change it here. And then you see how we added this, and then we change this. Just do Control S or save the file. Go back to the game, click Settings, save and exit, go to Workshop, Develop Mods, and then go back to the thing, or to the mod, and then click on Build + Reload. You see how it says Rebuild Required? Click Build + Reload. It will load. Once you do that, you go back to the world, and then you can see the changes back, or you can see the changes. Now it says 20 damage. And now if I swing and I look to the right, the sword turns with me, which is nice because you don't want the sword to be stuck in one direction. You don't want to accidentally die to something. It's pretty nice, but it depends on what type of item you want to make. But yeah, that's basically it. This is the first tutorial of many, hopefully, and if you enjoyed the video, if you learned something, leave a like, subscribe, and then if you don't want to do any of that, just make sure to watch my other videos. And then if you guys need any help, just leave a comment and I'll try my best to help you guys out. And yeah, that's it. Next time we'll probably learn how to make effects and add attributes to swords and make a projectile or make a bow. make something like that. I don't know, but yeah, that'll be it. Thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.